Hi, my name's Ian Wallace. I call myself the Messed Up Counsellor, which is quite an intriguing name. And the podcast you're about to see is one of many, and we've been doing about a year now. So you can look back and see all the things we've talked about with guests and on my own over the process. A lot of the information I use in the podcast initially came from the first book I wrote in 2011. Why do we do that? What do we do about it? And that came out and was the basis of all my learning, understanding at that time, which is going back a few years now. And that process of understanding how the world works for people, how we can alter, change, and adapt it, was kind of what it was there to do with the initial stages. I've made that now an audiobook as well, so it's available on Amazon as an audio file that you can check out and you can download to your heart's content, and hopefully that will be helpful. In the podcasts, we're trying to look at all sorts of things about human interactions, human dynamics, the world, and how we might understand it more or change it more. So it gives you lots of ideas and tools in order to think about and look at different ways of being or dealing with things. And hopefully that brings people together and makes people more able to connect and communicate. Lots of topics. If you ever want to connect to me, just obviously drop me a comment on the podcast and I shall try as much as possible to reply. And if you've got any ideas of things that we might want to use on the podcasts, then please let me know. My name's Ian Wallace. Thanks for looking and thanks for listening. Hi, welcome to another podcast from Ian Wallace, the Messed Up Counsellor. What I'd like to do today is have a look at something that affects a lot of people, including me, and people who have heard podcasts before where I've spoke about dyslexia and how it works for me. But what I want to do today is kind of think about and look at the benefits of dyslexia, which doesn't necessarily get talked about. Dyslexia for me is something that I became aware of when I was about 40 and I had an assessment. Before that, going through school and various other things, I really didn't do well with any kind of academia, any kind of tests or exams, as you can imagine. And reading and things like that were not easy. So from that point of view, when I got to the kind of time when I had to have a piece of paper to do the job, which was a degree at Manchester, I went through a process, an evaluation, and was told I had dyslexia. So that kind of, for me, made an awful lot of situation scenarios, things I did make sense. And things started slotting into place. So I kind of helped me understand my world a bit, which was helpful. But I also came to realise that, I wasn't going to be embarrassed by having dyslexia, and I was going to embrace it, because in my world, it gave me a lot of benefits. And people are surprised when I say this, but it does have a benefit. I know we see the things that you cannot do with dyslexia, the things that affect you, that make life harder. But actually, for me, it also makes some aspects of my world massively more intense and able to understand things in a different way. And I think that benefits me. It certainly benefited me in my career and the work I do and the work I've always done, not just when I was diagnosed. So the benefits for me is that my brain works differently. It is not the same as anybody else's brain because I'm an individual, but it does work similar to other people who have dyslexia. But it's such a vast area of differences, dyslexia. It can affect all sorts of parts of my brain and my learning and my understanding of the world. So I can only give you it from my perspective. I can't give you it from your perspective. And I can't give you the 100% guarantee this is what it's like for everybody else, because, as I said, everybody's different. But the things it gave for me when I embraced it, it gave me an understanding that when I work in understanding the world, I understand it through my senses, obviously, as we all do. but I understand it through a feeling and emotion process. I understand it from a visual process of seeing something happening, and I learn by watching. I learn by seeing it happening. So I'll give you an example of that. So when I went through and did the degree, I had to obviously go through a learning process, and we were talking about theories and counselling and those kind of things. And I said to my tutors, as soon as I realised that this was something that was a hindrance to me, reading, I said to them, right, okay, I've got this issue with reading that is going to have a detrimental effect on me learning naturally. And so I said to them, right, okay, so what you'll have to do is, with the theory that you're trying to give me, is to give me examples in life, in relationships, in working, that you can give me that brings that to life. So instead of just reading something, I was asking them to give me examples of that reading. And for them, that was a different way of teaching, of tutoring, obviously. One that they embraced, to be fair. Sometimes not as easy. One or two of them were a bit more hesitant about how they would have to change their model of tutoring. But we got through it. And because they were giving me examples, I could see the pictures in my head. So real life examples of how people connect. So you might say, okay, so when people are not communicating, then somebody with another person is not actually hearing the words. They're seeing their lips moving, and people lip read. So lip read became a process whereby explaining that you will have to give me lip reading processes instead of hearing processes. So I kind of likened it to somebody who couldn't hear because of the words they were saying. So they would have to give me pictures. They would have to give me examples in practical life whereby one person was interacting with another person or a situation scenario was occurring. And I say that was quite different for them because that's something they'd never done before. I presume they have done it before, but maybe not consciously done it before. So I kind of worked out that my brain works in a way that seems a bit mad sometimes. So when I'm looking at any kind of problem-solving process, whether it be a physical problem-solving or a relationship-solving problem, I see the end result. I see where it needs to be at the end first. So if you imagine the alphabet, we learn by A, B, C, D, E, basically. I don't. I learn by Z is where I want to get to, and I track it back to see the components of it. So I don't see it as a learning process going forward and going A, B, C, D. I will say I will get Z, D, F, and I put all the components. Then I prioritise the components to put it in some kind of order, and then I find the solution. So you'll find for me, if I'm problem solving with things like puzzles, things of those nature, I can see the answer, but then I find out how to get there. So in the rope things where you see all the little lines going together and there's an outcome, I look at the outcome and I track back to the beginning, and that makes it a lot easier for me. So I see the solution, and then I want the components of the solution, the process, and then I can just whiz through it. Now I've realised that that's different to other people. But I've also realised that it's frustrating for other people I'm working with who are trying to solve the puzzle with me, because they may be doing A, B, C, D, and I'm at Z, and I can see the solution, the process, the end result, and then it takes them time to get A, B, C, D, E process. But for me, I'm already there, and then I track it back. So that's very frustrating for people that's around me sometimes, because I'm there waiting. I can see what's going to happen. I can see where it should be. And they're getting to that process. But I'm getting a bit like, come on, a bit impatient. Come on, let's get there. You'll get there eventually. So it kind of creates a process whereby when people work with me, it can be very frustrating, as I've said. But also that aspect can seem as though I'm an expert. I know what's happening. I know everything, which I don't, obviously. But it can be for them a bit awkward in connection and a bit awkward in how they relate to me. Now, I've realised that over the years, but I didn't understand why. I really did not understand it was a feature for me of dyslexia. So I support the positives it gives me. I don't worry about the negatives. So the book that I wrote, my first book, I find it really hard to write, as you can imagine. It's a lot easier these days with grammar and spell checker and all these kind of tools that are in the programs. But in the early days, if we go back to 2012, I think it was when I first did the first book or the first draft, it wasn't available. So I was kind of working out how the heck I do this. Now, I knew what I wanted to write because it was about examples of my world, my life, clients I'd seen, things I'd done. So the bit that I find awkward is the writing. So I said, okay, I can't do that. Now, I didn't get hung up on it. I didn't kind of see that as a negative. I said, okay, so how do I get this to happen? I can see the book, I know the book, I understand the book, I understand what I want, but I can't do this bit. So I involved a process of speaking into a dictaphone. I recorded the chapters, I recorded the sessions. I used my voice, which I'm pretty good at. But I'm not good at the writing, the typing, doing it on the keyboard. So I employed somebody to do it. And there was a lovely lady at that time, who is mentioned in the book, that spent hours transcribing all these words that I'd given into, obviously, chapters. Now, okay, I had to go through those processes, but going through it, when she'd done lots, probably 95% of the work, was not as hard, because it made it a lot easier. And the grammar and the spell checking would be correct, obviously, because she was good at that. So the book got done in a lot faster time than it would have done if I'd have gone through and done it. And I'd probably not completed it, to be fair, because I would have got very frustrated at some points and probably given up, to be fair. So although the book is my words, which it is, the construction of the words, the construction of the chapters, the English, was done by somebody else. And that's what I think, for me, is one of the benefits of embracing dyslexia. It's not a negative for me. I see something I can't do very well, and I can't do it very well, and I still can't do it very well. So I find people who can, people who do have the skills and the abilities, and I get them to do that piece for me. This is being recorded in a studio at Talyard, and James, an operator, is sat behind the screen and he's doing all that bit. He's doing the recording, he's doing the filming, he's putting it all together for me. Because I cannot do that easily. I don't have the skill, the technical knowledge to do it. So I don't say, oh, well, forget about it, I can't do it. I say, okay, so how do I do it? Well, I do it with other people, and other people have the skill. So from that point of view, don't see dyslexia, if you are dyslexic, as being a hindrance. Yes, it stops us doing some things. Yes, it does. And we're probably never going to do those things well. I am never going to be good at academia. I am never going to do that. So get people that do that stuff, that are skilled in it, get them to help you. Look at the components that are missing. So in my world, that process of writing down, if you class it as D in the alphabet, then D I can't do. Now, I knew I couldn't do that right at the beginning of the book. So I find somebody to do D. Somebody can do D for me. And that person is skilled in doing that. So I can complete the project. I can complete the work. But I'm bringing in people who can do the pieces I don't do well. That helps me in not only finishing the project, obviously, But it helps me in not seeing dyslexia as a negative. Now, you see, I've just done that with my brain. Not seeing dyslexic as a negative. Now, somebody would say, I've been told, I don't know these things, that a double negative makes a positive. I have no idea what that means, so don't ask me about it. But in that speaking, if I'd have put that down on a piece of paper and typed it, then I probably wouldn't have recognised it. But because of my world now, because I see these things, because I am getting better with words, still not a good process, believe me, but I am getting better with it the more I do it. I am able to write things now a lot easier than I could do before, using tools, as everybody does. But that process means that I don't see that dyslexia as being a bad thing. I see it as giving me some skills and abilities that other people don't have. And those skills and abilities are things that people want from me. They are things that they will pay me for. And in my work, in my counselling, I'm using all those other subtle skills that I've got really good skills in order to help people, in order to get people to understand their world and to relate better to their world. I can see those things in my head, which sounds a bit mad, I know, but I do. So people will say to me often, do you know, you've explained that so easily, so I get it now. I understand it. I understand what you're saying. And that's a skill I've got. It's a good skill because it makes things easier for people to understand some of the complexities of relationships, for example. So I see the relationship in my head as a picture, and then I work out the components that aren't working in order to make that happen. And then I do the learning and the processing and the places where those things aren't working to help other people put those things together, to join the dots, if you like. So when people say to me things like, well, you know, I've been like this ever since I was a kid, then I won't just take that. I'll say, oh, right, okay, so what do you mean by a kid? What age is a kid? Oh, well, I was about 8. Okay, so now in my head, which sounds mad, but it's the way it works, in my head I'm seeing an 8-year-old child. I'm not seeing the person in front of me anymore. I've got an 8-year-old in front of me. So then my brain starts working out what an 8-year-old is doing. Not what the adult was doing, but what the 8-year-old is doing. And then the process of checking, wondering, as we do, I don't ever say, this is how it was for you, obviously, because I've no idea if that's true. But it gives me an idea. It gives me a focal point. It gives me a focus that I can bring that person's attention to and say, okay, so what's going on when you're 8? Is there any situation where maybe, I don't know, you changed schools, or you know, you had a relationship breakdown, or somebody left, or because we're working with rejection, or we're working with loss? Now, those things I see very clearly. And which is why, thankfully, I'm still doing what I did 20 odd years ago, which is the counselling process. But it also gives me, in learning, in teaching, a very big understanding of the different ways people learn and the different ways people can be presented with product in order to get them to understand. Again, taking these experiences that I've been through with my degree and changing and adapting to suit the person I'm trying to impart knowledge to, or an understanding to, or get them to widen their understanding or knowledge or experience. So in that process, I'm able to be more flexible. So when I do training, when I work with people, I will first check out what the person in front of me, their way of learning is, their way of seeing the world, their way of understanding the world by the conversation we have. We don't do an exam or a tick box exercise. I can get those kind of components in my mind whilst talking to somebody, because I concentrate on the words they're using, on the way they're interacting with me, and I can get a good idea of how best to put the piece of information across in the best way possible that they can pick it up, not how I teach, because I have to be flexible. And I think that skill is part of my dyslexia. I can't guarantee that's true for you, but it seems to be something that I have a skill in that other people seem to recognise or seem to be able to say, yeah, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't do it that way, or how did you do that, or what did you do with that? Wow, that was interesting how you did that. So those kind of processes, the feedback, if you like, gives me an understanding that that is something that for me is a skill. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're watching my words on this video, or just listening to me on Spotify or one of the other audio networks, don't see anything that you have that you cannot do as a negative. Try and understand it, try and work with it, try and get better at doing it. Don't ignore it, obviously. But see the other benefits you've got, the other skills you've got, the other positives you've got in your world and your life that you are really good at. And then use those. The ones you're not good at, circumnavigate. If you need them, like I did with the words on paper, then find somebody who does it. Find somebody who can do that for you. And then add that process to your process so you get the end result, whatever it might be. If we focus purely on what doesn't work, what doesn't happen, what we cannot do, that's going to take you down a rabbit hole. It's going to take you down a rabbit hole of negativity. I'm not good, I don't do it, I can't do it, I'm not good at anything. That's the way it'll go. See that as something, yes, embrace it. I can't do it. I'm not good at that. But then utilise the skills you do have. Those are the ones that everybody will need. Those are the ones that people will pay you for. Those are the ones that people will employ you for. And utilise those skills and abilities, because those are the ones that you can then excel in. You can grow that understanding. You can grow that process and get somebody else to do stuff you can't do. I'm not a good cook. I really am not a good cook. I can cook, but I'm not a good cook. I'm better than I used to be, if I put my mind to it. But if I didn't cook, I'd go to a restaurant. I'd get a takeaway. I'd find a way of doing it. So just accept, as I did, that there are some things you cannot do, and you're never going to do some of those things. Some things you might get better at, as I've done. But don't see it as this is going to stop me interacting with the world or getting my rewards, my future. Just see that, actually, the other things I do really well. And I class myself as differently abled, not disabled. And I think that's what I've embraced with this. I am differently abled. I've got some really good skills and abilities, which I do well with. I embrace them. But I also don't worry about the stuff I can't do. So maybe this has made sense to you. Maybe what I've said resonates with you, maybe. Or it might resonate with somebody that you are connected to, that makes it easier to understand their world. Whatever it does, enjoy. Have a great life. And do the things you're good at, which is always more beneficial. Hopefully that's made sense, as I've said. Embrace it and enjoy it. So please, you never know, if you share this video to other people, whether or not they will be going through something that I went through and not told you about. So subscribe, share, like it, and pass it on to your friends, because hopefully it'll help somebody understand their world. My name's Ian Wallace. I'm the Messed Up Counsellor. Take care. Hi, thanks for listening to the podcast, and hopefully it made sense and was interesting for you. Please subscribe, like and share. With the podcasts, you never know who will be helped by the things we talk about, things we share. we don't normally tell people our problems, but by sharing it and helping other people to understand things. The book Insecurity, It's All About Me, is also available now through Amazon. And it gives you an understanding of what drives insecurity, how insecurity works within our human dynamics, and how you can get a much more secure connection with people. It gives you lots of ideas and thoughts, which is really good. So thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, share, hit the button. And if you've got any comments, please give me them and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks very much. Take care.